Hey guys, Hassan1 once again with a brand new video for you, and welcome to something different. This probably will end up being a Dre Talks or something, but I don't normally talk about things that aren't motorsport related, and I haven't done anything football related in a long time, but I know there's a certain area of YouTube that I know subscribed to me originally for my FIFA based content back in 2011, 2012. So I thought, let me appeal to you guys out there, and as a Manchester United fan, and talk about the recent sacking of David Moyes, which was, I think, Tuesday now, 4 days ago. Well, 3 days ago actually. My bad, because today's Friday morning as I record this. But the whole situation last season was kind of a bit like my parents, really. My parents had been together for 20 years. They separated about 3 years ago. And, like, you don't know what life's going to be like when you've had two constant parental figures in your life for so long. I mean, that's lucky when you think about it. It just doesn't happen very much anymore. And that's, you know, one of those things where you kind of get really appreciative for things like that. But it also worries you about the future. You know the day is coming. Because when it comes to my parents, like, they were showing signs of tension, like, long before they actually separated. I think it was a matter of when, not if that makes any sense. So it's one of those things where when it happens, it still hurts, you know. And I think that's what happened with Sir Alex Ferguson. Ferguson declared his retirement, I think it was early May last season, about this time last year actually, almost a year ago to the day. And that he was going to choose his successor. And, you know, we all were obviously very sad. We were all also kind of worried about the future, because for most football fans, especially my age, I'm 21, I think for a lot of football fans, it was a matter of, all we know is the Ferguson era. What the hell happens now? Who's going to be our next manager? What's he going to do? And, you know, obviously Manchester United fans all clearly got together and wanted to support whoever was going to be the new manager. And it turns out that David Moyes, the former Everton manager, had gotten his job. Now, a lot of people were saying, well, why wasn't it someone more high profile? I was one of those guys that thought, this should be quite a good fit. It makes sense. David Moyes had always had a knack of bringing in a lot of talented players for not a lot of money. Like he'd done with Everton. He'd taken Everton to the Champions League. He had turned them around from being a mid-table side to being a team that was constantly challenging for Europe in the top 8. Even beating Everton, even beating Merseyside rivals Liverpool for a couple of straight seasons. He had a big emphasis on youth talent, and it was all about bringing youth up through the academy and through in other people like Ross Barkley, like Wayne Rooney when he was around at the time, like Leighton Baines. And so I thought, he seems like a prototypical kind of Ferguson replacement. So I was kind of okay with it, and I wanted the people to get behind him and see what he could do. Then we had the mess of an off-season. The off-season after we won the championship, after we won the Premier League, was awful. It was a mess. It was a complete mess. It had become quite clear that essentially Moyes had wanted Marouane Fellaini to bring him over from Everton. This was apparently the case from about May, and back then Fellaini had a £23.5 million release clause in his contract. For those that don't know what that means, it means that for £23.5 million, Everton would be forced to accept that offer if somebody bid £23.5 million for Fellaini. And this was coming off Fellaini's best season, but it was coming off the season where he was playing as an attacking midfielder. Playing as a guy that would hold up the ball and then hold it up for other players to run onto, basically, as an attacking midfielder, kind of centre forward. He'd scored 12 goals that season from midfield, which was a very impressive number. We didn't really need a guy like Fellaini, but Moyes was interested anyway, so he decided to go after him. Unfortunately, he missed the time his release clause expired, and then he lowballed Everton into bidding £27 million for him and Baines. Now, I don't know why Everton fans took that so personally, like it was some kind of insult, But I can see why they'd be pissed off that their full manager would lowball them and put such a low valuation on his own players. I just see it as a business thing and nothing personal, but a lot of Everton fans got really friggin' salty about that. But in the end, we got Fellaini on deadline day, but it was for £27.5 million. £27.5 million for Marouane Fellaini. Because it's funny as well, because it's like Woodward, when we were on the China tour, flew home early to deal with what was known as urgent transfer business. That never materialised. Ever. Apparently we bid on Gareth Bale, according to Florentino Perez, the president of Real Madrid. We'd bid on Gareth Bale, but Levy vetoed the deal because he didn't want to sell to a direct rival. He'd rather have him sold out of the league, and obviously we all know what happened there. Bale's gone to Real Madrid and already won silverware down there. But that's besides the point. Like, apparently the urgent transfer business never materialised, and Manchester United was doing frantic deals on deadline day, which isn't very United-like. The last time it happened really was Dimitar Berbatov back in January. I think it was January 2009, and I think that was 30 million. That was our transfer record. Amazing considering we're a club of our stature and we've never spent more than 31 million on a player. But that's besides the point. The Ander Herrera rumour was floating around at the time, and then, apparently it was like fake representatives of the club had come down and brought money, and it was a complete mess. Apparently we're going to get Fabio Contrao in on loan. Never happened. January rolled around. Never happened either. It was a complete mess. It was a mess of a transfer window. It just didn't work out, and it was just awful. And then in January, we brought in Mata. I don't think people realised that Mata was not what we really needed. We already had a number 10 in Wayne Rooney. We already had two number 10s when it comes to attacking midfielders or centre forwards, because we had Shinji Kagawa there as well. And Kagawa was never played properly or effectively. He's an attacking midfielder or centre forward, whichever you want to call it. He was being forced to play on the left, which was not his best position. And that's because of guys like Ferguson forcing him to play there, because there was literally no room for him. You couldn't play wingers and then play only, you can only play one centre forward. So Kagawa was always left out. And that caused a conflict, because that meant that means more designated wingers like Nani and Ashley Young got less game time as well. Same thing happened this window. I was hoping that Moyes would get it and play Kagawa more in his real position. Just wasn't going to happen, unfortunately, because Ferguson bought Van Persie on an impulse buy, and there was a logjam. Too many attacking players and not enough places to play them all. Don't get me wrong, not totally his fault. Guys like Valencia shit the bed this season because he's now unable to beat players like he normally did, but, the transfer windows were a complete mess. And I don't think a lot of people realised when we won the league last year, that was the worst squad Ferguson had when he won the league by some margin. Van Persie scored 27 goals that season, and he papered over a lot of the cracks that were in our squad. Wingers that had no production, like Nani, Valencia, Ashley Young. No one in central midfield with any mobility. Like Carrick was still dishing the ball around just fine, but he had no speed and he couldn't tackle properly. Like, he had no one there that could effectively run the game, have a bit of mobility, link up the attack and midfield a little bit. There was nobody like that in our squad. Our midfield was Carrick, Fletcher, Anderson, and Cleverley, who is borderline dog shit. So we had no one there of any real mobility that could dish the ball around and link up play with the attack, and that was always a mess of a situation. And our defense was getting older. Patrice Evra was playing like a lost puppy, playing like he's a left winger, and that was just completely stupid and ridiculous. So RVP papered over a lot of the cracks in a flawed squad. When you combine that with a lot of the teams in the rest of the league getting stronger, Manchester City solving their width problem by signing Jesus Navas, Fernandinho, another holding midfielder which they needed. You had Arsenal that bought Mesut Ozil, 42 million pounds, a record signing, a game changer for a team like Arsenal that are known for not spending in big quantities. Liverpool, Brendan Rodgers was starting to put together a really nice squad and putting together a great offensive style of play to match those players and make the best of a real, genuine strike partnership, something we've not seen in the Premier League for a long time, in Suarez and Sturridge, who have scored over 50 goals between them this season in the Premier League. So even Tottenham, they had maximised Gareth Bale and sold him for the most amount of money. That was, 86 million pounds, so 101 million euros. Nice number. And then they plugged in a lot of really solid players to make a real squad, like Roberto Soldado, Christian Eriksen, a bargain buy at 11 million, Paulinho, Eric Lamela, I don't know what happened to him, but so on. You get what I'm going with this. The rest of the league had clearly gotten stronger. Even Chelsea had brought back Mourinho and started building around Hazard, who, for the style that Mourinho wants to play, was clearly a better fit. I mean, they sold Mata for £37 million, and their team has actually played better as a result without him. So, hey, who was the fool, really? Don't get me wrong, it was a good buy to get Mata in, because if you have a chance to sign the best midfielder in the league, you sign him. But he didn't fit Chelsea's play style. So they clearly sold him off, and it worked. So who's the fool? The rest of the league had gotten better. Our big reaction as league champions was to sign Fellaini and thinking that would be enough to take us over the top. And that's much more of the board to blame. The Glazer family for not giving Moyes more money, not trying to press home the advantage of being champions, not realising the weaknesses in our squad that got us. The RVP papered over the cracks earlier in the season. It was a mess, and it was only when we started losing games to the top 8 regularly did people start realising how big a problem this actually is, rather than actually doing something about it. It didn't help. I mean, I'm not saying Moyes is totally blameless in this. He had some serious shortcomings as a manager. Him firing the backroom staff was an idiotic move. Guys like Rennie Meulenstein know the team really well, they know the players. Why not work with them rather than bringing in your own guys? I understand that he tried to get rid of the Ferguson mantra and the Ferguson, I wouldn't want to say stench because that's an insult to Ferguson, because he put together a really great team of people. But I could see he wanted to put his own footprint on the United squad immediately. But I think that was the wrong thing to do. AVB tried that at Chelsea and got fired within a season. Funny that, isn't it? He tried to get rid of the scene. He tried to get rid and alienate and stop playing the senior players like Didier Drogba, Frank Lampard, John Terry, and quickly tried to put his own footprint on the club, and it didn't work. Firing the backroom staff was not a good move, because guys like Mike Phelan and Rennie Meulenstein are great coaches, and they know what they're doing. They know the players, they know the staff, they know every major element of the team. It would make sense to try and bring them in. Surely, keep them around. They know the players. It will probably help you bridge the gap to your squad a little bit better, rather than putting in 4, 5, 6 new guys and thinking it's all going to click. Football doesn't work like that. Wilfried Zaha was another one. I don't know what happened with Wilfried Zaha. Zaha plays right wing, and he played in the Capital One Cup final and was excellent in the final. He was very raw, but you could see the talent was there. He was actually beating players, working well with the ball, dribbling well, creating chances, and was playing across the field, left, centre or on the right. It was working hard to win the ball. Didn't play a game for us this season. Was loaned out to Cardiff. Don't know why. There was a rumour going around that he shagged Moyes' daughter Lauren, and that put him in the dog pound. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it didn't make any sense given how crap Valencia has been this season. Surely Zaha would be worth a chance. Again, maybe I'm wrong. Adnan Januzaj was an interesting one. I got to give Moyes praise for giving Januzaj a chance, because it's clearly worked out. The kid's going to be a star one day. He's got massive potential. but then trying to stop playing him because of trying to protect him by not playing too many young games is complete nonsense. The only way you're going to get the best out of younger players is by playing them. Look at Everton. Look at guys like Ross Barkley, who plays every game for Everton, and look how big a star he's going to be. He's going to be on the plane for Rio, I'm sure of it. Ross Barkley is a talent. Raheem Sterling, Liverpool. Raheem Sterling is a better player at Liverpool than Januzaj is at Manchester United right now. Sterling is a stud at 19 years old, and he's already a key part of Liverpool's attack. You play him week in, week out. And the fact we have to rely on a 19-year-old for creativity is an insult, and it says a lot about the quality of our team when guys like Januzaj and Zaha are expected to be relied on for creativity. It's really irritating. Moyes had no plan B when the shit hit the fan. When things weren't working, he didn't have a backup plan. Games like the 2-2 draw at Fulham were a prime example of this. That game we had 81 crosses. 81 crosses. We have guys like Rooney, Hernandez, Januzaj, Mata. Guys that prefer the ball being played to feet. Who's gonna win the aerial battles in midair? Really? No one's gonna win those headers. It's Hernandez. He's like 5'0". Rooney has not been good in the air for 2 years now. RVP was not playing. Who's gonna win the air balls? We have guys like Mata, who played the ball to feet. It was only when Carrick had the light bulb moment, it's like, let me pass it around instead, was when we actually scored. And then our defence completely derped it and we drew. To Fulham, who at the time was the worst team in the league. We had no plan B. Whenever things would go wrong, we'd never had a backup plan, we never had a creative change. The only time it really worked was against Bayern Munich in the first leg, where Moyes actually got it right and realised that playing counter football would probably be the best way of going about it. Parking the bus and then trying to counter at the other end actually worked. And that was the first leg of the Bayern game, which we actually probably deserved to win. If it wasn't for Welbeck trying to be fancy and trying to chip the world's best goalkeeper. But the tactical unawareness of Moyes and him messing around and playing guys out of position was unacceptable as well. The awful record against the top 8. I think we are something in the range of like 1, 2, and 10 against the top 8. That's pathetic for Manchester United to have only, I think, 6 points against the top 8 this season. And it shows we're in 7th place, and that's exactly what we deserve. We're flat track bullies, a bit like Arsenal, only not quite as bad. We're bullies. We'll beat the lower teams, but we can't take anyone in the same range as us. Everton, I think the second Everton loss was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was the loss that pretty much said enough was enough when we were being outplayed by our old team. With St. Martinez, which Everton's fans can't help but suck their dicks right now, because Martinez has actually turned that squad around and is playing really great attacking creative football with the players he's got. It'll be interesting to see what they do next season when all those players go back, because like half of them are friggin' loaned, but that's a discussion for another video. Overall, I wish that Moyes was given a little bit more time, maybe one more window, just because he said himself he was trying to rebuild the squad. But then why would you only buy one player in each window then? Why would you sell Fabio? Why would you loan out Wilfried Zaha? It just didn't make any sense to me. It's clear this was not the right job for David Moyes. And I think he's a great manager, and I think he's a very good human being. He's a very classy guy. If you saw his leaving statement, you could see that the class was there. And you could see he appreciated what he had tried to do. He was clearly frustrated at how things had gone down, as much as we were as fans. And I wish him all the best. I really do. I genuinely mean that, because he comes across like a great human being. But it wasn't the right job for him at the time. And to be honest, that's not totally his own fault. I think the board had a lot to do with that, and the Glazers not putting their thumbs out. I think the fans had unrealistic expectations. I know my dad, for example, thought we were going to retain the league title. Why? Because Manchester United. That's why. Like we have some kind of divine right to win, which is nonsense. It's like, oh, we're Manchester United. We should be winning these things. That's not how football works. Like I know one fan I know on Twitter said to me that, oh, it will be tough, but Champions League football should have been a given. No, it wasn't. Did you see our squad? Like the same squad that she was taking hours out of her life to nitpick and criticise. Oh, but Champions League will be a given, right? Easy. Bullshit. I can't believe people had these kind of expectations. I said before the season started, we would do well to make the Champions League. It's a rebuilding year. It's a rebuilding process. Do not be surprised if we come in 5th or 6th this season. And that was the reality of the situation. We've lost 11 games this season in the league, more than we've had in any of the Premier League era. And 7th is about what we deserve, really. No more, no less. We can still technically finish in 5th mathematically. It's going to be near on impossible because Everton are actually good. But like I said, I think the board's a problem. I think the fans are a problem. I think the fans just having this divine right of winning is not how football works. I think they have a sense of entitlement because we've won so much in recent years. Doesn't help. And yeah, it's just the overall. It's been a perfect storm of just bad shit happening. And I don't know what the next chapter is because, you know, Moyes clearly didn't work out. I know Ryan Giggs is going to be temporarily in charge, and I'm hearing that him, Ferguson, Woodward are all going to come together and talk about a replacement. And I just hope they choose right. I really do, because what I want to see happen is I want them to have a director of football. Get a director of football, a guy that actually knows what he's doing. Like, the director of football mantra is one I'm a big fan of, because the situation with the Glazers is a mess. Have someone that actually knows what he's talking about, who can get involved in transfer deals, that can operate from a man-manager level, interact with the players a little bit, see what's going on. We need a middleman, clearly, because Sir Alex Ferguson was a freak manager. He was a manager that was God in terms of Manchester United. He could do everything. He was very special. There will never be another manager like Sir Alex Ferguson. And the sooner people get that into their heads and realise this, the better. Ferguson alone was worth 15 points a season. Easily. He would... Like, Sir Alex Ferguson always had a bunch of 6 and 7 out of 10 players in his team. The John O'Sheas, the Ronnie Johnsons, the Dennis Irwins, the Andrei Kanchelskis, those kind of players, like those kind of utility players, like Park as well, another one, Park Ji-sung, and Hernandez, guys, that were 6 or 7 out of 10 players, but they played like they were 9 or 10 out of 10 players because they wanted to play for Ferguson and they were intimidated by him, and that they wanted to play their hearts out for him because they were given chances. Ferguson was a freak. We're never going to have a guy like that again. So why not try and build the best possible franchise by having a director of football that knows what he's doing? Maybe having a guy like Paul Scholes who can get involved in every transfer, because Paul Scholes is respected as a football player by everyone. Like, when you see guys like Xavi and then he has to say the best player they ever played against was Paul Scholes, that kind of influence can be amazing for players to join a football team. Manager-wise, people have spoken about Van Gaal. He's favourite with the bookmakers right now. I'm not a fan of this. Van Gaal is 62 years old. We're going to have the same problem again in 3 or 4 years' time when he decides to retire. Maybe that will coach Giggs into a managerial role. I don't know. Jurgen Klopp, I wouldn't mind seeing come along. Jurgen Klopp is a very passionate manager. He is a ball breaker. He's very intimidating. He has this style, and he's built an amazing Dortmund team, and he's built some amazingly talented players in his time at Dortmund. Marco Reus, Robert Lewandowski, Sven Bender, Ilkay Gundogan, Mats Hummels, Neven Subotic, Lucas Piszczek, Marcel Schmelzer. I could go on there, you know, Jakub Blaszczykowski, etc. And the problem is he's had to sell them off for money, but Klopp has generated some great talent over the years. He'd be a great guy to bring in, a passionate, ball-breaking coach that can, you know, generate good players and, you know, keep the conveyor belt rolling even when players get sold off like Lewandowski will this season. I'm adamant Reus won't survive another year, or someone will buy Reus for his 29 million release clause. You know, guys like Nuri Sahin, etc. If not, Ancelotti maybe. Ancelotti, I mean, if he doesn't win the Champions League this year, would third be enough for him to keep his job in La Liga? I don't know. Ancelotti's a proven Premier League winner with Chelsea. You know, he's got the nuts for it. He's a great manager. Almost like Mourinho in terms of style, you know, so I don't know. If anyone's got any other theories, let me know. If anyone wants to talk about Manchester United in the comments, let me know. I didn't think this video would go on for 26 minutes, but what do I know? I talk a lot. People know this about me. I talk a lot about these things, and, you know. I'm just one passionate Manchester United fan who felt the need to just vent about how shitty our season has been and how we need a big-ass change. And hopefully next season will be the beginning of that. It's the most difficult time Manchester United has had as a football club in maybe 20 years. Maybe more. So obviously as a fan, I'm just hoping things get better. If anyone's got their own 2 cents, I'd love to hear them. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will catch you guys later. Until then, sayonara.